What is going on, guys? Matt Downs with Daily Grind Fantasy Sports here to give you the edge for this Week 3 NFL slate on DraftKings. Cannot wait to break it down. If you guys are brand new to this channel, we provide both free and paid content for all daily fantasy sports across all sports. If you could please show your support by hitting that subscribe button, notification bell, and of course smashing that like button for all of our future NFL DFS content. If you would like to know more about becoming a better DFS player and taking down that big GPP, head over to www.dgfantasy.com. On dgfantasy.com, we give you cheat sheets for every major sport along with ownership projections, actual projections, and strategy for every single slate. We also cover optimal cash plays as well as preferred Gpp plays and stacks for specific contest sizes. We do the dirty work for you. We are also currently partnered with Fantasy Cruncher, the best optimizer in the industry. When signing up for our $30 package, you also get a $20 credit to use towards any Fantasy Cruncher product. We provide the best value in the industry. And now let's go ahead and dive right into this Week 3 NFL slate breakdown here with TJ and Kevin. As always, this video is recorded officially on Friday, guys. So if ownership does change, it will be Sunday morning. Feel free to show up to our live stream where we'll be getting all the updates. You guys are driving me insane. They're laughing on the screen right now, but it's okay because TJ is actually watching golf as we speak. Let's go ahead and focus on some football, though. We're going to start at the quarterback position here, TJ and Kevin. Matthew Stafford is the highest owned at 9.2% owned and the highest over-under as well. And TJ won't shut up, so I'm just going to pitch it right to him here. 55.5 over-under. Let's hear it, TJ. Why Matthew Stafford here at 9.2%?
I love Stafford, Matt. In the first look, we did talk about him. There's another guy that we did also think was going to carry some ownership that actually isn't. But yeah, Stafford makes total sense here against the Bucs. A potential maybe look ahead type game situation here for the Bucs. I know, Matt, you're not from New England, so you don't really know what's happening here. Right now on like New England radio, it's basically like the Patriots don't even have a game against the Saints. Everybody's talking about the Bucs and Tom Brady coming here. So maybe that type of situation is something we might see here against the Rams for the Bucs. But yeah, it's a really high over/under. The Rams currently have a 27.25 team total over/under. The Bucs very susceptible through the air. We know how good of a rush defense that they have. That front four is lethal. So it makes total sense here in a game that should shoot out currently. The over/under opened up at 54, currently at 55.5, with 64% of the money coming in on the over, or the public bets, excuse me, not the money. So I do like Stafford at 6,400, very cheap option, makes total sense in cash. So I do love him.
I think that's the most obvious play. You look at the game total, you look at the Vegas point total, the team total at 27, and you just look at the price tag. It makes absolute sense. And plus, you can't run on the Bucs, so they're gonna have to score all the points there with Cooper Kupp and Robert Woods. So Kevin, you agree with that cash play? Matthew Stafford, 6.4K.
Yeah, I mean this revitalized Rams offense is a pass-first offense anyway, and obviously we know you pass on that team. That's how you beat them. So I definitely,
Darrell Henderson.
I mean, I got him in Dynasty, unfortunately. But yeah, I definitely think that's the way you obviously go about it at 6,400. You look at the other options around that cash range, and he is the cheapest by far, except maybe Daniel Jones, who I won't talk about. But yeah, it's I think that's a obvious number one on this slate.
Yeah, if you don't go with Matthew Stafford, you're going to be paying up, and there's two clear elite options on the slate and very high over-unders. We have Kyler Murray playing against my high school defense there, 8.3K. He's the best player. He has been, honestly, just in general, even without the Jags defense, he's been the best quarterback by far. He's been phenomenal to start the season. And then also Patrick Mahomes, going to be a bounce-back game in a high over-under here, 31 Vegas total for them. I think you just have to go with those two players if you can afford it. If you don't, if you can't afford it, go all the way down to Matthew Stafford. Let's talk about some GPP plays here. I'll start out. I have a couple. I named one of my favorites, TJ, in the last video. Kirk Cousins isn't showing that much ownership, 5.2%. He's kind of sitting in that medium range there in terms of ownership. I'll leave the other one for you. I'll also talk about Justin Fields here, 5.2K. Again, we have no idea what to expect from him. He could be the best quarterback in the NFL. He could be the worst. He could be somewhere in the middle. But guess what? 5.2K is a very cheap price tag. So if you're playing GPPs against a Cleveland defense, it's a 19 over-under, which isn't that good. Could be playing catch-up the entire game, so he's going to have to throw the ball there. Could be a great opportunity to get him at a 5.2K price tag. We didn't know last video, TJ, if he was actually going to start, but now we do. So love Justin Fields there at the 5.2K price tag. Let's hear your favorite GPP Plays.
Yeah, I'm going to continue to play Justin Herbert. I was high on him last game against Dallas. Price tag actually came down a couple $100, currently sitting at 6,500 in a matchup against Kansas City, where they are currently 7.5-point road dogs, 7-point road dogs, excuse me, with 62% of the bets coming in on the Chiefs -7 as well. So a game where they should be playing from behind, Matt. I love Herbert in that type of situation. So that's going to be my favorite. Again, I was really surprised at his ownership. He's only showing 4.3% current.
We thought he was going to be one of the highest owned.
Yeah, I think we assumed him, Stafford with Mahomes and Kyler Murray would be up there, but that's not the way it is. So I will be glad to be overweight on Herbert when playing tournaments.
Completely agree with you there.
He's probably my favorite there at 6,500. I also have some interest in Matt Ryan just because he's so cheap at 5,400. And again, not showing any ownership. I think people are completely off of the Atlanta train, and rightfully so after their first 2 games, which have both been disasters. But he's very cheap at 5,400. So he's in play for me. I like the Kirk Cousins play, Justin Fields, like you talked about. A lot of great plays, I think, this week for quarterbacks. I won't take him off from Kevin, though, because I know he's probably going to.
Yeah, so let's hear him, Kevin. We heard Daniel Jones. Honestly,
that's what you talk about, right?
I've given what's that?
Eason?
Who?
Yeah.
Eason. Okay. Yeah, Daniel Jones was the one guy that I picked up off the waiver wire because I have to, because my quarterbacks are complete trash, and he's been playing really well. Kevin, is that your favorite GPP play?
Yeah, in my dynasty, I got him and Kyler Murray as my 2 quarterbacks for Superflex. So I couldn't love that more. Daniel Jones playing out of this world. He had a huge run. I can't remember how long it was for a tutty that got called back as well for pretty much a relevant hold that didn't need to happen, which is the worst.
I think it was like 76 yards.
I don't know.
Yards,
it was ridiculous. He had an 80-yard rushing touchdown last year too.
Yeah, rushing first, Daniel Jones.
Yeah, he has wheels. And I definitely think at 5,800 and against that matchup, it's absolutely another good spot for him. I'm trying to see who else on the list I like. Another person, I mean, I love what you guys talked about for Kyler Murray. Just cash. If it's not broke, don't fix it. He is playing as the best quarterback right now. A lot of people say if there's a redraft right now in leagues, people would be taking him over Mahomes. Those legs, it's just ridiculous. He's got 9 touchdowns, I believe, through 2 games. The other person I'm looking on the list right now is Russell Wilson at 7,600. Very consistent. 70. You guys didn't mention him, right?
No,
I don't believe. 26 points or 27 points, 28 points. He's very consistent, obviously. And this is in a smash spot against Minnesota, who is allowing the second most, I believe, DFS points right now to opposing quarterbacks. We just watched Kyler drop a 38 burger on their forehead. So I absolutely like Russell Wilson in this spot.
Yeah. Completely agree. I think you have to have some kind of Seattle or Minnesota stack in your GPPs, and I think that with Russell Wilson or Kirk Cousins is a great place to start. They've both been very, very good in these shootout games to start the season. Switching over to the running back position here, we didn't know what to expect, TJ, with Madison and the Dalvin Cook situation. We didn't know if he was going to be out this week, but it looks like he's trending towards the right direction here. 18.2% ownership. It makes sense. The game total, Dalvin Cook is the main guy on that team. 8.4K price tag, and then Derrick Henry. This one I have some concerns about. 8.6K. Not that I don't like him, I just don't know if I like the matchup as much. 26.5 team total there. And then Saquon Barkley, 6.5K. These guys are very interesting to look at here at the top of the board. So, Kevin, I want to start with you this time. We have Dalvin Cook. Do you agree with him? And then I want to hear your takes on Derrick Henry at 8.6K and then Saquon Barkley at 6.5.
Well, here's the thing, man. I know you guys mentioned it, or Matt, you said you mentioned it in the first look video.
Go ahead.
But I wasn't here about it. So, I think, TJ, you can assist me on this. I remember you guys said, who's your favorite GPP play on the slate last week? Everyone has their number one. I did say Derrick Henry was my favorite play on the slate. So, TJ, can I get a toot for my own horn there? Yeah, that's so. Thank you.
I don't know what that was.
I don't know if that's a toot, but yeah, sure. We'll go skirt. So yeah, that yeah. Well, so I definitely love Derrick Henry, but he was also.
Please stop.
Yeah.
Okay.
We agreed with you. Can we get a skirt back?
You can get a skirt. Was that good?
Yeah.
That was kind of more of a nay. But, he hates us so much. I love it. So the thing is, I loved him so much for knowing. I mean, literally what we talked about. Huge boom potential. We know he's kind of hit or miss, but he can drop 40 points in a game. And I can't remember his ownership last week, but it was
that's too low.
Yeah, what was his ownership? Do you remember last week?
It was like 5%, I think.
It was ridiculous, and it was just like that's so much leverage. I don't love Henry typically in cash games, just not being a prolific pass catcher. He did catch, 6 balls last game, which is crazy. I mean, I think he had, if I'm not wrong, 17 catches. I don't know why that number's in my head last year. So
I can add him up on Too Lazy. Good.
Yeah, it's absolutely incredible. If he had 17 last year, if that's accurate,
looks about right.
6 in one game, it's pretty crazy. So I don't know. Dalvin Cook's banged up. Obviously, a much more favorable matchup, better pass catcher, more consistent. No CMC on the slate. I mean, with no CMC on the slate, I don't hate Henry's ownership, I guess. If Cook's healthy, I'm leaning towards him a little bit, especially at cheaper. Just for consistency and cash. But that's
so you do like Derek. So you like Dalvin Cook more than Henry. What's your thoughts on
Personally.
Saquon? Because I want to hear this.
So I'm a big Saquon guy this year for like undervalue, but this doesn't seem undervalued for someone who still is barely getting like what he get 15 touches last week, hasn't really done shit with his touches yet, and he's 6,500. I know his price tag's dropped a little bit, but it's a super favorable matchup. But we've seen, like I said, Daniel Jones still got a rushing touchdown last week, right after he got his one called back. So I mean, he's just going to keep stealing them. You know what I mean?
I was about to say
like,
he's stealing from Saquon. It's Lamar
Who's
Jackson.
running back in that backfield, Kevin? Is that what you're trying to get at?
What'd you say? He is the real running back.
Who's the real running back?
Lamar,
Saquon
Daniel
Barkley
Jones,
is Daniel
Jackson.
Jones.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's him. So I definitely think. I mean, he has 2 rushing touchdowns this year, one each game, I believe. So I definitely think Saquon, I mean, he's going to pop at some point. At some point, he's going to be valued super low, and he's going to pop. Maybe it is this week, and he's primed, obviously, with this matchup. But I'm just not sold yet for cash.
Yeah. All right.
6,500 is a decent amount to pay still. But sorry, keep going.
Yeah, no, before I give my take on TJ, do you agree with everything? Do you prioritize Dalvin Cook over Derrick Henry if you can't get it for both of them? And then do you also like Saquon for cash?
Yeah, so I think it's going to be tough to get both of these guys in a cash lineup. Obviously, it's going to be doable, but you're going to have to get some cheap options along the way. I prefer Dalvin as long as I know that he is healthy with that ankle injury. Obviously, that's a scary thing, but looked really good against Arizona, and he has a fantastic matchup here against Seattle. And what do you know? Derrick Henry just had his matchup against Seattle, where he had those 35 rushing attempts and 50 drops. So I do like the matchup there. A little bit better with Dalvin going up against Seattle than Derrick Henry going up against the Colts. But Derrick Henry can run on anybody when given the opportunity. So, I mean, if he's going to get the volume that he did against Seattle, then I wouldn't hate going there either. Saquon's interesting at 6,500. It's a good matchup against Atlanta. The big thing I think here for me is that Saquon isn't on the injury report here going up into this game against Atlanta, where he was questionable week 1 and week 2.
Good point.
I don't know if that means he's going to see an increase in snaps. He played 84% of the snaps in week 2, which was absolutely fantastic. I think that trend should continue as long as he doesn't regress here. So I honestly don't hate him, Matt, at 6,500 if you're landing there. CEH at 4,800, right below him at 12.5%, I think might be a better play just in terms of cash. Now, he's been absolutely atrocious, but the price tag has come down $2,000 since week 1, which is absolutely insane. Well, he's 6,600, then 6,700 week 2. Now he's 4,800, and that really high over under. I think he could get a little bit more work here against the Chargers, so I think he's a good safe option. But yeah, I think I lean Dalvin a little bit over Derrick Henry as long as he is fully healthy. I mean, obviously we'll have to monitor that. I don't hate going to Saquon, though, at 6,500. I do like the matchup against Atlanta. And again, if he's going to continue to see 80+% of offensive snaps, like I can see myself.
Okay. Yeah. I agree with both your takes on the Dalvin Cook over Derrick Henry. I think he's a more obvious option. And obviously, if you can get up to both of them, yeah, why not? Especially if there's more additional value they're opening up for the wide receiver. You couldn't pay me to touch Saquon Barkley at $6,500. Given the options around that range, Chris Carson at $6,400. We just talked about how good Seattle should be in this game. Yeah, go with what you know in cash. And you know that Chris Carson's going to be involved in this offense. You don't know that for Saquon Barkley. You can't guarantee it. Sure, everything's trending towards the right direction, but until the coach says something, I don't care. Najee Harris is $6,600 against Cincinnati. We know that he's playing 97% of the snaps. I mean, to me, that seems like a much more obvious option for me in terms of cash. I don't think Saquon's ownership is going to stay this high. I really don't. 25 game total or team total for them against Atlanta is the only thing playing into his favor. I honestly don't like him at all when you compare him to the other guys in this range. And we've talked about this, TJ. And another guy I want to bring up is Austin Eckler at $7,200. Like, that's a fantastic matchup. He should be playing the entire game there, should be heavily involved in the passing game. PPR monster. Can't guarantee that for Saquon. So that's
awesome last week.
Yeah, that's my take on Saquon. CEH, I'm not even going to talk about him because that's how frustrating he is. I just feel like he doesn't have that much upside even at that $4,800 price tag when looking at the other guys on the slate. There's so many other options, and I don't want to take them all from you guys, so I'm going to pitch it back to you, Kevin. When looking at some of these running backs, who do you like for GPPs?
I'm just going to add this, Matt. I do think CEH, I am a huge proponent of CEH being a trash can, but I think he's at 4,800. I mean, he gets around 15 touches a game.
He does.
At 4,800 on that offense, you have to go out of your way not to clear that. I know he did exactly that last week, but I still think for cash, it's not bad. It's such a pay down option.
You are right for cash, and I do take back him not being a good cash play. I guess that's more for GBP. I don't like his upside for
never
GBP.
touch him GBP. His ceiling is, it's so small. It's Hobbit small. So I definitely think I don't like that. I do like, there's a couple players I like here. I liked everyone you talked about. I liked Eckler. Someone else I'm looking at that, I mean, at some point, George talking about that pop potential for GPP, and it could blow up in my face. But Jonathan Taylor, especially with the quarterback situation there, they're going to try to beat him on the ground. Not necessarily the best matchup in the world, but it's not a terrible one. And at some point, he's going to pop, and he's being very underowned at near 4%, kind of like that Henry.
Very good matchup this
category.
week.
Yeah, it's not bad at all. And then Antonio Gibson, that same thing. And I'm trying not to be biased as I have pieces of both these guys, but both will pop at some point. You got to expect it. And they're both very underowned at 4.7. They're back-to-back 4.7, 4.4% as it looks right now. But yeah, there's a couple other options, but I'll let TJ talk about them.
Yep. TJ, let's hear your favorite GPP plays. I know I pretty much talked about them all, so I do apologize, TJ, because we talked about them in the first look video. Is there anybody else that you want to talk about?
Yeah, so I mean, I don't know if we're considering Eckler more of a tournament play or a cash play. I mean, the ownership's pretty condensed here. So showing 10.3% ownership. I absolutely love him in this type of matchup here against Kansas City, where they should be trailing a lot of dump offs. That was something that we didn't really see in week 1, where he wasn't involved in the passing game, and then comes back week 2 against Dallas with 9 receptions. So that's obviously something that you'd love to see. So I do really like Eckler, Matt, like you talked about, 7,200. There was somebody else that I did want to talk about, and his name continues to be Nick Chubb.
Yes, what a
3.8% ownership right now. The snaps that he has gotten in the offensive snaps, and just, it's been very low. It was 53% of the offensive snaps he played in week 1. 57% of the offensive snaps in week 2. Obviously, we know Kareem Hunt is in the mix. The wide receivers continue to be banged up there. It looks like Jarvis Landry's out. We might get Odell back this week.
He should play, by the way.
To go. Yeah. Could care less. He's absolutely horrible. So not worried about him. He'll probably get hurt and leave the game anyways.
Oh boy.
Just in terms of looking at the ownership. Yeah, that was harsh. I'm sorry. I do like Odell, I guess.
I didn't mind it.
Just in terms of the ownership, like, he shouldn't be 3.8% anytime he's on a slate, especially at the price tag at 7,600. So it's a very tough matchup against Chicago, so I do understand it. And again, the offensive snaps are a little bit shaky there with Kareem Hunt in the mix as well, but I do like going to him at. I think he's going to be a great pivot off of some of those more expensive guys. Alvin Kamara too, showing 7.3% ownership. He's virtually that entire Saints offense. We saw him get bottled up against Carolina. I think it's a different type of matchup there against New England. And again, I think it's kind of a look ahead here for the Pats. I don't really like the spot with Brady coming in and what could honestly be the biggest regular season game in NFL history, or one of them. Obviously, Favre going back to Green Bay was a big one there. When he was on the Vikings. But I do like the spot there for Kamara at 8,200. And again, a good pivot off of guys like Dalvin Cook and Derrick Henry that are carrying, double and almost triple the ownership that he currently is. So I think that's a good spot there. So those are some guys I do like for tournaments. I think there's some good pivots off of those, the Henrys and Cooks that are really garnering the current.
I have 4 pay down options that I just keep eyeing. They're great value plays, just given the over under and the pace of these games. First one's James Robinson. There's a big thing going on in Jacksonville where they think that Urban Meyer doesn't trust James Robinson, but he's played nearly 80% of the snaps.
Can I ask you a question real quick?
What's that?
How long until Urban Meyer's?
They'll give him a 3-year leash because he's a college coach coming into a new
how long before
James Robinson?
No, before Urban Meyer.
Quit?
How long
before Urban Meyer
Myers walks away? Yes.
You're right. He will leave before they fire him. 2 years. I give him 2 years.
I think he's gone there.
No way. No way.
Really?
No, not based on the things that he said.
You got Trevor Lawrence, but continue. Sorry.
Anyway, James Robinson, huge thing going on in Jacksonville where everybody's playing fantasy thinks that he doesn't rely on James Robinson when he's out there for 80% of the snaps. So get that out of the way here. He just hasn't been utilized because they suck. That's what it comes down to. He hasn't been involved in the passing game. They haven't used him in the rushing game that much. I do like him if they can keep this close. A huge, big what if they can keep it close. Love him. Leonard Fournette at $5,000 and that huge over-under. Just the price tag's very intriguing. Can definitely get 2 touchdowns there. Love that $5,000 price tag. Chase Edmonds, if I'm going to talk about the Jaguars, might as well talk about the number 1 running back there in Arizona at $5,700. And then Tyson Williams going against Detroit, $5,800. Love that too. All those are very cheap options. And like I said, I see all these options right here in these bottom tier price tags. I can't get up to Saquon Barkley at $6,500, guys. I feel like all those guys are a lot more obvious in my opinion in terms of value. Let's switch over to the wide receiver position here, and this is dominated by one single game in terms of the ownership. Cooper Kupp, Chris Godwin, Robert Woods, and I believe it just updated again. I was looking for, I believe, Mike Evans. I think he was up there. Anyway, three of them. Three of them are up here. Enough wide receivers. It reminds me of the Dallas Chargers game that we had a week ago. Was that last week? Yeah, it was last week. So let me hear it, TJ. Of these wide receivers, who are you prioritizing from this game? Are you looking anywhere else outside of that game?
Cooper Kupp.
Okay.
That's it. I mean, I don't think anything else needs to be said. 10 targets, 11 targets over his first 2 games. Obviously, Matthew Stafford and him have a great rapport currently. And it's been pretty awesome to watch. 60 dropbacks that Matthew Stafford has had. He's looked Cooper Kupp on 20. So
it makes sense. Yeah.
He's way too cheap still, I think, at 6,800, especially given the game script that we should see in a competitive game against the Bucs. The only way you beat the Bucs is through the air. So we could see a heavy dose of Cooper Kupp, Matt. So I do love him. Honestly, I don't hate getting Robert Woods either. Same type of situation here at 5,700. Obviously has taken the backseat here to Cooper Kupp, but I still think he's in a
still hasn't had bad games, which is crazy.
Right. Yeah, then that's the scary thing. 4 targets game 1, only 9. 9 targets in game. I meant only 4 in game 1. Right. 9 targets in game 2. So yeah, I do like getting to Robert Woods as well. I think both of those guys will save some cash, Matt. KJ Osborne carrying some ownership. I just think people have seen what he's done in box score watching over the first 2 games. He's been heavily involved, honestly, in that Kirk Cousins offense there for the Vikings. He's been kind of thorn in the side of Justin Jefferson owners, but he's been playing well, and he's still relatively cheap, so I don't hate it. I think I'd rather go to somebody in that Bucs game like a Chris Godwin or maybe a Mike Evans. The way I look at it, Matt, is it was Mike Evans' game last week. It's going to be Chris Godwin this week.
Yeah, I agree.
I think Mike Evans could see a heavy dose of Jalen Ramsey. Chris Godwin in the slot should have a better type of a matchup there. So I think it's Godwin's week to eat. And I think that shows because the ownership is a lot higher in Godwin than it is Mike Evans.
That's one thing I did want to bring up is that Jalen Ramsey matchup there with Mike Evans.
Brady that's the reason why he even look at Mike Evans if Jalen Ramsey shadows him. Won't even look at him.
Good point. I guess you would know. I guess both of you would know that. Kevin, do you agree with everything TJ just said? Are you prioritizing Cooper Kupp?
Yeah, I am, and I agree with everything he said about Mike Evans too. Like, I want to get to Mike Evans. We talked about it last week. That just while we're on the topic of that team, I think it is a Godwin game. Maybe an AB game, maybe a Gronk game again. Gronk has. Yeah,
AB's actually officially out now with COVID, so that's another thing to bring up.
So
Gronk looks like he's like 25.
He does.
It's great. 2 touchdowns in the Super Bowl, 2 touchdowns game 1, 2 touchdowns game 2. But yeah, I couldn't agree more with that. And I mean, I don't see Brady looking at him other than maybe the end zone if it's. I mean, I think of it when like Marshawn Lattimore plays Mike Evans. The only time Brady will look at him is if it's like 1st and 2, and he can get a quick release or something, get big on him. But yeah, I agree with everything TJ said. Cooper Kupp is just that PPR monster right now. Always underrated, and he's the guy on this list. I mean, KJ Osborne is fine, I guess, for a pay down option, but I'm not going to talk. There's some GPP people, but
I was going to say let's get to some GPP plays here in a second. I agree with both your takes. Cooper Kupp, $6,800. He technically has been the best wide receiver in the NFL, and why he's not 9K at this point, I don't get it based on what he's done the previous 2 weeks. Robert Woods, $5,700. I look at that and I laugh. I don't think we've ever seen Robert Woods at $5,700. That's actually crazy. So love that. I think you need to prioritize this game if you're going for cash and small GPPs. Let's switch over to some GPP plays. I won't start out this time. I'll let TJ start. I have a lot of people to talk about, so I'm going to let you take them all from me first.
You want me to take them all from you?
Yeah, go ahead.
I can do that. Again, addicted to these Chargers. If we want to consider Keenan Allen a GPP play there at 6,600,
that's crazy.
10.4% ownership. I really love him. And if you don't want to go to him and you want to go down $200 and get Mike Williams in that same matchup against Kansas City, showing 4% ownership, I feel like that's a really good spot as well. Again, been more of the red zone target there. And he's been heavily involved in the offense there, has Mike Williams. Got 22 targets in 2 games, so I really do like that. And again, I'm going to keep, I feel like I'm beating
Beating a dead TJ with a hammer.
Beating the dead horse, beating a head with the dead horse. Beating the nail with the horse in the head. Okay, one of them, you guys can clearly understand. Yeah, it's a cowbell. It's a cowbell thing. Kev's going to throw up. We're all good here. In a game where they're going to be trailing on the road against Kansas City, you're going to be throwing from behind. Eckler, Keenan Allen, Mike Williams. Love those guys for tournaments. There was somebody else that I want to talk about, and that's T. Higgins, doubtful. I hate the matchup here against the Steelers, but I think a guy like Jamar Chase and potentially Tyler Boyd at 4,700 could be a really good play with T. Higgins doubtful, not going to play. So those are two guys that I'm looking at. I think I prefer Tyler Boyd in this situation just because he is $700 cheaper and he's showing significantly lower ownership. So that's somebody that I also have interest in. I'm not going to give up on Justin Jefferson yet. One of these huge games is coming. He had 10 targets last week. He had 9 in week 1. So Kirk Cousins continues to look his way, only showing 7% ownership in a game against Seattle. That should be very competitive. The price tag is coming down. He's $7,200 after opening up week 1 at $7,700. So he is another guy that I am targeting, Matt. I just think a boom game is coming. Why not against Seattle in what should be a competitive game? D-Hop, 8,200, 6%. I know he's hurt. If he's good to go against Jacksonville, Matt, he could easily dominate.
He will.
So
he always does. He has his best games versus Jacksonville. He will 1,000% have the best game in the slate.
Right. So those are some guys I like. Terry McLaurin, another one, looked really good with Heineke last week against the Giants, where he had those 14 targets. Really tough matchup against the Bills, but he showed 4% ownership. If they're trailing in that, in that type of game against Buffalo, again, really tough defense to play against, really tough defense to throw against. But I think Terry McLaurin, the rapport that he showed with Heineke, with Ryan Fitzpatrick going out, is another interesting play. The price tag's a little expensive, but I think he's a pivot off of some of those guys garnering a ton of ownership, like a Cooper Kupp. So if you want to get different and get somebody showing a sixth of the ownership as a Cooper Kupp, I do like Terry McLaurin as a pivot.
Yeah, good. You only took half of my plays. Kevin, let's take the other half here. Who are you liking for GPPs?
Yeah, he took about all mine. I like everything TJ said. I think Jefferson's prime for a big game. It's going to happen. It's that Henry effect. The talent's there. It's just going to happen. Make sure you're on the right side of it when it does. I love the Keenan Allen call at 6,600. He went down in value. He has no touchdowns and he's averaging 20 points a game. He's just the probably most underrated person. He's like Cooper Kupp. These PPR guys are just so underrated. Everyone loves the big yard monsters and the touchdown guys, but these are the guys that'll break a slate very. So I love them. And then someone I talked about Matt a little bit before TJ got on, and I what I mentioned is Rondale Moore. I think he's heating up. A lot of people, a lot of hype beasts behind him. A lot of hype behind him. People love him. He scored 28 points last week, 7 receptions on 8 targets for 114 a tutty. Still had 10 or 11 points in game 1. 5K is very easy to clear. This should be a shootout potential type match, especially what we saw from last game. I definitely think this has big potential here.
If you love Rondale Moore, you better come back with Marvin Jones at $4,900, 9.2%. Also a fantastic value play in my opinion because he's the number 1 option there on that Jacksonville Jaguar team. We have Adam Thielen. TJ, just want to touch base on him too at 5.6%. He's even lower owned than Justin Jefferson. Has also showed more promise so far this season. So love him. There's nothing to hate there. I have to talk about this Pittsburgh Steelers offense because they do have Deontay Johnson officially ruled out for this game. So the step up in there and his absence there is going to be Chase Claypool, Juju, and James Washington. They're showing no ownership whatsoever. Should get a heavy dose of volume. Juju actually had a nice he's had a nice 2 games here in terms of targets, 8 and 7 his previous 2 games. So Juju, sneaky play there, assuming that game is a little bit higher scoring than it's supposed to be. Am I missing anybody else? Juju.
What do you guys think about
you're raising your hand.
Sutton.
I do like Sutton. I just get worried about that matchup because the Jets are terrible. One guy I want to mention with AB out. Any interest in a guy like Scottie Miller at 31? I kind of think in that type of matchup, he's a slot guy. He can come in, he can make some plays, get some first downs for Brady. I mean, they love going 3 wide. So
that's true. I was gonna say I feel like it's gonna be a Fournette day
before
it becomes a Scottie Miller day.
Yeah. I feel like every single time I start one of these backup wide receivers for the Bucs, they screw me. So I hate looking at them now. So. But at 3.1K, might as well throw them in your player pool. The Browns are without, like you said, Jarvis Landry. Now they have Odell Beckham back, so you got to consider some of the wide receivers there. We have Peoples-Jones and Rashard Higgins showing no ownership whatsoever. I get that the Browns don't throw it, but if they do, guess who's going to catch a touchdown? It's either going to be Odell or them. Anybody else?
I mean,
good? All right.
You want to keep going?
I mean, we can talk about wide receivers all day. But let's switch over to the tight end picture here. Travis Kelce's on the slate, and we'll move on to the defenses here. No, seriously, TJ Hawkinson, the highest owned at 12.6% because he's also very cheap at 5.2K. I will say this. TJ Hawkinson is the best player and wide receiver on that team, and I don't think that's up for debate at this point. 11 and 9 targets his previous 2 games. He's looking like he's in that same category as like Darren Waller And I'm not going to say Travis Kelce yet, but he's getting a ton of targets, guys, at 5.2K. And then Travis Kelce at 8.2K, followed up by the cheapest option, going to be Higbee at $4,000. Kevin, are you going to go the Hawkinson, or would you rather still pay up for Travis Kelce? Because the rule for joining Daily Grind Fantasies, you must play Travis Kelce no matter what contest every single Sunday. Are you going against that rule this weekend?
This might be the week to do so. I mean, I don't know. I love Hawkinson. I know. I'm a big Kelce guy. Okay, I can't say both. How about this? How about both? How about flex up TJ?
Flexing. All right.
I'm serious, because here's the thing. Like, not you, TJ, trash can. Hawkinson, flex up TJ Hawkinson. So I think that the better TJ. So here's the thing. Travis Kelce, consistent as hell. We know this, clears 20 points every single game. Hawkinson, though, I mean, when I looked at this slate before I even looked at ownership, before I knew anything, I was just looking, making, my mock lineups. And the first most obvious pick I saw on the slate was I got to get TJ Hawkins. He's dropped in price after last week. Good. He should be. He's dropped in price a little bit. He's going up against the team that is allowing the most points to opposing tight ends right now. And he is an absolute wagon. He's got 8 receptions back-to-back games, 20 points in back-to-back games, a touchdown back-to-back games. He's a monster, and like you alluded to, he's the only person on that. Yeah. Straight up.
Yes. I was going to say Stafford. Jared Goff seems to be liking him as a target there, his favorite target by far. Travis Kelce or TJ Hawkinson? TJ.
I think it depends on what kind of build I'm going with. Honestly, I can get behind either one of those. I'm not going to, beat the horse with the dread bum and keep talking about TJ Hawkinson and how impressive he's been so far this year. At 5,200, it's a really cheap price. It makes total sense, Matt. If I can get, I guess I'm gonna go like that. If I have the flexibility and I get through my lineup and I can get up to Kelce, I'm gonna go Kelce. If I have to spend down on TJ Hawkinson, I'm gonna go TJ Hawkinson. I don't think either steer you wrong. I obviously prefer Travis Kelce in the matchup against the Chargers than I do TJ Hawkinson in the matchup against Baltimore, but he's going to continue to see a huge workload in that offense with Jared Goff because, they don't really have anybody to throw to except for us and Jared Goff. I don't know. Maybe Jared Goff starts throwing it to himself. I don't really know what else.
Did you see Cephas's almost catch last week?
Yeah, Cephas is kind of a weapon. I'm kind of all in on him. But I think it's one of these. I think it's one of these two guys. If you have the money to go up to Kelce, though, I obviously.
It's interesting because the tight end position is the one place you'll save. Is one place you look to save salary. That in defense, and I think that people are going to gravitate more towards Hawkinson this week for obvious reasons. All the reasons that we said. I think Travis Kelce is yet again going to be a fantastic leverage play. I don't think he's going to be as high end as what they're saying right now. I think TJ Hawkinson is going to creep up closer to that 20% range. I don't know if you guys agree with that, just based on our builds here. So I think Hawkinson's going to be more of a strictly cash option, and Travis Kelce, again, Daily Grind Fantasy. If you guys want to join, we will tell you all day, every day to play him before the slate locks. I think he's fantastic leverage yet again here at $8,200. Anybody else you guys want to talk about here? We have Gronk at $5,500, who's just been crazy. We've already talked about him kind of, and we can't go an entire video without talking about Kyle Pitts, TJ. So you might as well get that out of the way now. $4,900. How you feel about him?
Am I allowed to talk about Kyle Pitts?
Yeah, you're allowed to. I mean, he didn't do bad last game. He got 12 points.
No, I mean 80% of the offensive snaps. If he's going to continue to be in these tight games, well, I mean they haven't been tight, obviously, but this is a good matchup. It's a better matchup here for Atlanta against the Giants. So against the Bucs, it was close for a little bit there before Matt Ryan decided to throw 2 pick sixes. I do like Pitts as a tournament play there, 4,900, Matt. In terms of GPPs, I'd rather go to Gronk if I can at 5,500 at 5.2 with no AB. Love that matchup, obviously, against the Rams. Think that's, beating the horse over the dread bomb. So I do love going to Gronk. Jared Cook, 3,900. Good matchup against the Chiefs. I could see myself going there for tournaments. Darren Waller, no one's talking about him. Kind of weird price tag at 7,400. I don't like anybody being that close in terms of price to Travis Kelce. So Waller, knock it off a little bit. Tight ends are Travis Kelce and that. That's that. Just that. Wow. I'm starting to actually talk like a cowbell. Yeah. With the drum, with the cowbell. I do like Jared Cook at 3,900. I do like Gronk at 5,500, especially at 5.2% ownership in that match.
All right. Any other GPP plays that we want to talk about, Kevin, before moving on to the one defense that we have to talk about?
I don't even know if it's good or bad. I mean, for GPP or what, but Noah Fant's kind of just undervalued right here. I like that's about it.
Okay. Also, I'm throwing the Cleveland Brown tight ends in there just so I don't miss them. They are all wagons and they're all pretty cheap. They're going to look towards them probably more often than not here in this game because they're going to need them without Jarvis Landry. Last but not least, we're going to talk about the Titans defense.
I'm going to start the Titans defense.
What?
I don't know. I just want to.
Okay. I mean, you can talk about them first if you really want.
I don't want to.
The Colts are starting Eason, and they are $2,400. The team total for the
actually, time out.
Colts.
Just to be clear, are we positive that
Eason
Wentz
starting?
they are starting him? Because Wentz practiced today.
He did. Okay. Well, that team, I know that team total came down, so I can only assume that Eason
So
was
just to
starting.
be clear, he didn't practice Thursday, and from
Okay.
what I saw, now I was completely
They
golf
said he
today,
didn't have any
but I'm like,
hindrance at practice.
I'm
today.
95% sure that Wentz did practice today.
Okay.
And
Well,
Steve
then,
Nash.
okay, even better. Wentz is playing, so that means the Titans have an even better
Yeah.
matchup now.
Regardless, start Tennessee.
15.6%.
Poor Wentz, boys.
Yeah.
Poor Wentz.
I think it's because we have so many Colts fans in our Discord chat. Cardinals at $3,000 playing a high school offense, 15.5%. Anything else that you guys want to talk about? Any more GPP plays? I don't even have to ask your opinion on those two defenses. I know that what you're going to say. No? Yes?
No.
Play the Titans defense.
Yeah.
Yes. Again, I don't.
What are you going to do? What are you about to say?
Well, the Saints at 3,100.
Okay.
I'm so concerned about this Patriots matchup with the Bucks coming.
Ooh.
I really am.
That was unexpected.
Yeah. It's just everything is about this. Nothing's about this. So. Saints after a huge letdown type game could come in, and as long as Jameis Winston isn't making mistakes turning the ball over like Borzak was last week, I think this game could be really competitive. I think it should be lower scoring, honestly.
Yeah,
So
it should.
I like the Saints at 3,100.
I love how people are so quick to call Jameis Winston like the best player in the NFL after week 1, and then immediately just turn him into the worst player ever in a meme. It's like it's honestly hilarious. People just hate Jameis Winston.
People are mean.
People are so mean. I mean, he put up 38 points against the Green Bay Packers. All right, anyway, let's go ahead and end this video, guys. If you guys want to show up to our live stream, we'll be breaking all this down and a lot more, giving away our favorite stacks, updated ownership, all that good stuff. If you guys did enjoy this content, please do hit that subscribe button, notification bell, of course, smash that like button for all of our future NFL content. With all that being said, have a great rest of your night. Let's cash.
Love you guys. Good luck.